Hey guys, welcome back. As I had already told you some time back, we will now look at how to create GPTs with custom functions, and this is the first part what we will be doing. So basically the idea here is there is something called Quotable.io. It has an API. It does not require authentication, and there are various ways you can generate codes for this. So one of them is get random code, list codes, list by author, list tags. So you can do multiple ways, but what we will be doing is we will do the random code today. So all this would do is you give any code, it returns back a random code for that. So and you can also list the limit. Do you want specific number of codes and all that? But we won't be doing that at the moment. We'll just do one code for this example. This one is just to understand how this works. You would have access to this, and this is if you are hitting any issues, I'll show you how to debug. So I have the slides to do that. Before we move into that, I've already made it before we build it. So let's look at how this would work. So what I've done here is go here, edit GPT. In edit GPT, basically I have generate a random code using get random code function. So what is get random code, if you are wondering? So in actions, I have done something called get random code, which I have defined. So if you click on this, I have updated the schema, and if we do test here for this, this would do a random code for us here. And it's asking, do you want to allow this, or you can do allow always. That's totally up to you. This one is just teaching you how to build it. So once this is done, you would get a code from this website here. Cool. So we got something from David Brinkley, which gives us the code here. And after this looks good, so let's go back to the production. And let me go back to here. You have this conversation starters here. If you click on the conversation starters, you would get this. It's giving the source where it's getting from, and you will now get the quote of the day. And this might be easy to implement, but this is just a starter. First step we are building. I want you to know all the steps that are involved so that you would be comfortable with integrating any API that comes up in the future. So let's look at the slides. So what are actions? In addition to using our built-in capabilities, you can also define custom actions by making one or more APIs available to the GPT. Right? So an action in the context of a GPT is a custom API which allows you to extend the capabilities of your GPT by integrating external data. So external data can also be the PDF or the doc or the text JSON files, Excel files we looked at in the previous one, or it can also be integrating a API or any webhooks that help our GPT fetch information from any external service, and that external service returns the data back which the GPT uses and displays back to the user. So that's basically what this is. Actions are similar to plugins. So we have looked at plugins already. They offer greater control over the model and how your API are called. Here are some examples of how action can be used. So connecting GPT to retrieve to a database to retrieve information, right? So if you have any database endpoint you want to query from, you can connect it. Similarly, plugging a GPT into your probably Gmail or any Microsoft Office inbox can help you fetch all your official emails into the GPT. Or similarly, if you want to sell something, right? So if you want to build a GPT store, your merchandise store within GPT store, wherein your products are sold and people can pay and check out, you can do that too. So actions are designed to be easy to use and integrate with your existing GPT model, you can use your existing plugin. So if you already have built a plugin, you can use the manifest to define your actions in GPT, or we can create new actions from the past, from the scratch. The one we are doing today is new actions from the scratch. We are not using any of the plugin. So we might look at it in the future, but for now we are going to do this from the scratch. And what are actions, right? And what benefits do we get from this? So extend the capabilities of your GPT. Actions allow you to add new functionality to your GPT models that would not be possible with the built-in capability. As we looked at previously, GPT only has information till September of 2022. Beyond that, it's not there. Or the GPT Turbo has data till April of 2023. So it's not real-time data. If you want your GPT to have real-time data about your product catalog, or something about some Spotify playlist, or what's trending on YouTube, or any of that, right? Any real-time information you need, GPT-4 has it via Bing, but for your own custom GPT, you need data you want, not what Bing retrieves. So using actions, we can make that happen. External data. Actions allow you to connect GPT models to external data sources, which we already mentioned. And interact with the real world. Allows GPT to interact with real world, sending emails, IoT devices, or security cameras, whatever you want, you can integrate with this. So if you are looking to expand the capability of GPT, then actions are a great way to do it, are easy to use, powerful, and can be used to a wide variety of applications. And before we start building it, we also need to know what APIs are. So API, I do think majority of you would know what APIs are, but let me explain to you in a brief abstract level what APIs are. An API is nothing but an application programming interface. It is a set of rules and protocols for building and interacting with the software application. So APIs define the method and data from formats the developer use to interact with the software component, be it operating systems. So in operating system, using pthreads or top command or top API, you can get all the processes which are actually consuming your resources, the active resources. Similarly, libraries, right? So you can think of them as Boost in C++, Java has multiple collections. So it could be anything there. And next is different services. So let's assume we are using some coin market cap API. So if we want to integrate that into our GPT, we'll get real-time information about GPT prices, and we can query the price over time, the halving date, all the trading volume. So all this data can be integrated into this. So they are crucial in modern software development, as they enable different software systems to communicate and share data. Next is web APIs. So web APIs are interfaces that allow application to interact with each other over the internet. They enable integration of different software systems. So I won't go into detail of HTTP and HTTPS protocol, but you can see if you basically go into here and before this, you would either type HTTP or HTTPS protocol to connect to the web. So that's basically what it's implying. And web API are crucial in modern web development, allowing for creation of feature-rich, fully filled web application by leveraging service provided by external services. So there are different types of web API. The one we are covering in this is REST API. So I would limit the scope to REST APIs. So REST, or representational state transfer, is an architectural style for designing network application. So REST APIs adhere to this style and use HTTP requests to access and use the data. They are stateless. So what are stateless? So the request from the client to a server must contain all the information needed to understand and complete the request. They are known for their simplicity and scalability. You can also look up SOAP and other approaches, but we are just limiting our lecture. We only need REST, so I'm just limiting the scope to REST. And next is get. So if you read through, this has get, post, put, delete, and many other REST APIs. You can look through them, but one we are using to fetch the data from a server, so we only need get. So we are going to look at if you are using some secure protocols, probably you'll use post, and the other ones, it's a self-study for you. We won't be using it in this course, so I would not be covering that. So get is used to retrieve data from a server. It should have no side effects and be idempotent. The same request can be made repeatedly with the same effect. So example of a get request. A get request is used to retrieve data from a server. In this case, the Quotable API. You can use the get request to fetch a random quote or quotes by a specific author. So now let's do random. If I refresh this, I would get an other quote, right? So the author is this, but if you want, you can also pass arguments like tag equal to inspirational or tag equal to money or anything you want. So you can, so like what I'm saying is, let's do this, right? So I'll show you how we can do that if you want. Okay, so let me show you this. Cool. So this, if I use different endpoints, I can also pass arguments here, right? So you can also pass multiple different types of REST. So you will get that. That's what it basically means here. So if you want, we can limit it to 3 or 4, or the other way you can also verify an API is working is Postman. So Postman is, if you don't work in tech or API endpoint testing, you might not have encountered Postman. So I'm just not covering that. The simple way to do it is just do curl this API. You would get a response like this, right? So you would get a JSON response which has ID, content, author, and all the other fields. So we have already looked at this and we got this data. And the default schema here, before we do anything, so let's assume we want to build a fresh GPT, right? So I'm assuming we want to build a fresh GPT. So let me create a GPT. So let me go to configure. And if I go to configure, create new action. In create new action, so we can do this in 3 approaches. As we mentioned in the previous video, you can do it with none. You can do it with API key. You can do it with OAuth. The first one we are doing is none. We are going to look at the other ones later on. So if we want to do it with none, so just click this, and here in the examples, if you go to blank template, this one and examples. So let me go to a blank template. So this has nothing here. It's completely empty. So if I use this and I know the website I want to use, so how could I get this to populate, right? So I have already pre-populated this here. So if I want, I've already pre-populated this schema in this example slides. So let me do that. Or what we can also do is, you can copy this, and the prompt I have here, we can just give this and say update the schema to have this, right? So let me see, we will get this updated schema. In the meantime, what I'll also show is, you can go to ChatGPT here in the other GPT I have. So if I go into edit here and go to configure and click on this one, so this schema is already there. So how did I get that? I just did that from this one. So if we want to do that, I'll just show you how this can be done. Or if you have enough time, you can generate it yourself, like what I've done here, right? So you can do it yourself like this, wherein we will go over in the next slide what each one of them are. So we got this example, this one here with all the data. So let me copy this here, and we get a function here, and to test it, it's fine. I don't need the privacy policy, but if you have to publish this plugin, then you need the privacy policy. So if I do test here, so the first thing is, okay, so it went through fine, and it also got the action ID, and now I click allow. It is talking to the API, so the endpoint works fine, and we got the code here. But if I just go try to save it to me, it won't allow me to save it. Why? Because if I leave it, it says the policy is empty, right? So how do one thing you can do is, if you don't have a website, you can just go to OpenAI policy and just click it. Or if you know what, if you already have your own professional website with the policy, then you can use it. So I have this. Now let me go and say only me. It won't allow me because this GPT does not have a name yet. So after saving this, what I will do is I would say this GPT generates a code randomly which is inspiring. So create a name for this GPT. So it is going to create a name, logo, all the previous stuff we looked at. Inspire code. Can it be more modern? Okay, so I'm just asking it to do. Okay, so sounds good. Create a logo too. Okay, so it is now gonna create this all this stuff for me, and in the meantime, while it's doing it, so this is what I wanted to show you here, what we entered. So what is OpenAI, right? In the schema we were looking at, if you look at this OpenAI, what is this? So it specifies the version of OpenAI specification that this document adheres to. In our case, it is 3.1.0, which is the recent version of the specification. So if you want that, you just need to go to OpenAI documentation, which will be attached in this video. It will have the version number you can read from. So info, what does the info have? We have title, description, and version. So title is the title of the API. You can assign any name. Description, a short description, what the API is for, and the version. So generally in software, we start from version 0, version 1, version 2, or version 1.1, 1.2, 2.1, whatever you want to name it, you can do it. And the next one is the server. Before we entered anything, the URL was empty. So this one is an array of server objects which provides connectivity information to a target server. In your template, the URL field is empty, which should normally contain the URL of the API server. Similarly, paths. So paths here are the endpoints. So individual endpoints is appended to the URL from the server object in order to construct the full URL. Each path then contains the HTTP operation and its details. In our template, this is an empty object, which means no endpoints are defined. So this is the initial one we are looking at. Components holds a set of reusable components for the API specification, like schemas, represent data models, and in this case, the schema is empty, indicating no data are defined. and let me move down here. This is the updated schema, and I will attach the GitHub links to the original schema and the updated schema. However, you do know how to get this. Cool. So we got it. Now I can go and save this to me. Okay. Why is it not allowing me? Let me take a look. Okay. Everything looks good. Okay. Okay. Additional settings. Okay. I don't mind this data being used. Okay. And in configure. Okay. Let me go back to my this one. Okay. So why is the name not updated for this GPT? Okay, so it created a name for the GPT and now I can save it. Okay, so this GPT is now saved. Before we actually can do anything, so let me also actually go to edit GPT, and in this let me go to my actions, and the name of the action is get random quote, right? So before I do this, I would say add a conversation to generate a random quote using action this, and this should also be the only functionality of this GPT. I know nobody would use this for a GPT, but I'm just trying to show you how you can do it. So if you want to build a GPT to probably update weather, the only function it will do is accept a location, fetch the weather for that, and give this back. Okay, so give me a random quote. Okay, it has generated this, but I don't want all this one, so I will just say give me a random quote. Okay, so that's all I need. And let me go back here, and if I go back, okay, let me go back to this one, iterative experiment. Okay, it didn't save it. Okay, let me just say, can you save this function to generate a random code as default action and also as sole conversation starter for this GPT. Okay, once you do this, you have to save it. If not, it would not work. So let this go through. Okay, so it gave the code. You need to click allow for this to work. If you click allow, it will now give you a code, and cool. And before I do anything, let me save this GPT. Let me go to this one here, and let me click on update only for me, right? So I need to update this GPT, or if you want to share it with others, you can also share it. So let me copy this link, open a new tab. Let me go to this one. So this GPT is ready. Give me a random code. So whatever action we defined is now working for me. And if you find it to be good, and one more code, please. So if you want to have more people test it out, you can share it among your friends. And if you want to publish it to the App Store, you can do it. I won't be doing this because this is just to demo the basic one. We are also going to look at more use cases, how this can be done. So this is the one, and let me come back to this is the schema which would be available to you, and that's basically what this is about, and I have that covered here. And basically, if you still have issues with what it's doing and you need some help, then what you can do is you can go to the GPT and say, show me the JSON payload for this action. So let me say here, show me the JSON payload for this action. So if you have any issues, you can capture the data from here and share it with GPT-4 with the schema. It will help you debug what's wrong. If this would be a good debug starting point, and it's not the only one. What you can also do is other potential issues can be, one is if you are not getting any results, then it could also be an API endpoint issue. So just validate this API that this endpoint is valid. You are actually able to see something. If that endpoint is not defined in your action, then you might hit this issue. The next one is incorrect operation name. So if I have used get underscore random and I would have called get underscore random, it might be an issue. So just make sure the name you are using is right and it is a valid function name. If that's also some of the potential debug issues we need to know. I hope this was a good conversational starter. If you are having any issues, do let me know. I would be happy to make a follow-up video to explain all the other stuff. In the next video, we are going to look at the second way to do it, like we did the first option. So now we will do the API key to do it. We are going to look at all the three options to do it in the next video, and we are also going to look at OAuth. So that's basically covers this video. Thank you for joining.